Imagine you're flying 40,000 feet in the air. The ground below looks distant, almost unreal. You've flown before and everything feels normal until suddenly the plane decides to go on a suicidal dive. Your stomach lurches. Through the cockpit door, now flung open, you glimpse the captain trying to pull the plane back up. But the plane won't respond. The engine roar grows louder. One flight attendant grabs the phone, shouting instructions. Another is strapped to her seat, silently praying. And in that moment, you realize even they don't think that this plane is going to let you leave. This story isn't about the rise of machines from a dystopian future. Rather, it is a reality from a not so distant past. For decades, the skies have been dominated by two giants, Boeing and Airbus, together building over 90% of world's large commercial aircrafts. Their battle for supremacy in the commercial aircraft market is legendary, and in early 2010s, that battle intensified dramatically in the most crucial segment, the single-aisle narrow-body aircraft market. In December 2010, Airbus delivered a strategic blow. They introduced the A320neo. This wasn't a revolutionary new plane, but a smart upgrade. By simply putting on bigger, more fuel-efficient engine, Airbus promised airlines massive savings, up to 15% better fuel burn than its predecessors. By mid-2011, Airbus had secured over 1,000 orders for the new A320neo, while Boeing had none for a competing model. Boeing was caught off guard. They needed a response and they needed it fast. Developing an entirely new aircraft would take years, cost billions, and concede critical market share to the competitor. So, in August 2011, Boeing announced their countermove, the 737 MAX. Their plan was to modify their best-selling 737 model with a much more advanced fuel-efficient engines. But there was a problem. The new engines were bigger, and the 737 airframe, designed decades ago, had a lower height relative to the ground. There was simply no ground clearance. The engines would scrape the runway. So the solution was clear. Engineers mounted larger engines further forward and slightly higher on the wings. It seemed ingenious. But this seemingly simple solution had an unforeseen aerodynamic consequence. When the plane's nose pitched up at high angle, say during a steep climb or if aircraft was approaching a stalling condition, the larger engines could actually generate a slight upward force, pushing the nose further up. This meant the aircraft had a tendency to pitch its nose up more aggressively than its previous 737 models. Boeing corrected this with a new software, the Maneuvering Characteristic Augmentation System or MCAS. This system acted like a brain and was designed to automatically push down the nose of the aircraft if it detected a dangerously high angle of attack. This system also had the power to override the pilot's command. The critical flaw, however, was in its implementation. MCAS relied on data from only one of the two angle of attack sensors. If that single sensor failed, MCAS would generate faulty data. But here's the kicker. Boeing did not disclose the full functionality of this system to the pilots. Why? Because disclosing this would mean expensive pilot training, and no airlines would want to put their pilots out of their flying schedules and into the simulator, costing them billions. So, there was no training to pilots on how this powerful new system worked or what to do if it went rogue. The stage was tragically set. On October 29, 2018, just 10 weeks after the delivery, Lion Air Flight 610 took off from Jakarta, only to crash into the Java Sea 11 minutes after a faulty angle of attack sensor triggered MCAS. 5 months later, on March 10, 2019, the unthinkable happened again. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, another brand new 737 MAX, took off from Addis Ababa. On board were 157 souls. Just minutes into the flight, a faulty angle of attack sensor again delivered bad data. Immediately, the MCAS activated, trying to force the nose down. Pilots, now aware of the previous crash and the potential for MCAS issue, attempted to follow the runaway stabilizer procedure. This involved cutting off power to the electric trim system, effectively disabling the MCAS. For a brief moment, there was hope. But the plane was already at a high speed, and the horizontal stabilizers were massively out of trim. This created immense aerodynamic forces that made it nearly impossible for the pilots to manually crank the trim wheel and bring the nose back up. In a desperate attempt to regain controls, pilots re-engaged the electrical trim system. This reactivated MCAS. With the faulty sensor data still present, MCAS again pushed the nose down. The aircraft spiraled out of control and crashed 6 minutes after takeoff. 2 crashes, 346 lives lost. The world watched in horror. Within days, mounting international pressure forced the unprecedented global grounding of the entire 737 MAX fleet. Multiple investigations followed. The findings were damning. Flawed MCAS design, a single point of failure, and Boeing's critical decision to not disclose its full functionality deprived pilots of the knowledge to save their aircraft and their passengers. Regulators, including FAA, also faced intense scrutiny for their oversight. Boeing was forced to undertake significant changes. The MCAS software was completely rewritten. It now uses both angle of attack sensors and activates only if both of them agrees. The MCAS now has limited authority and can easily be overridden by the pilots. Boeing also updated the manual and introduced mandatory simulator training. After 20 long months, starting in November 2020, the 737 MAX slowly began its return to the service, deemed safe by the regulators after extensive modifications. The story of 737 MAX is more than just a lesson in engineering. It's a warning that in sky there are no rooms for shortcuts, and when machines fail, humans fall. If you found this story insightful, make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button. And let us know in the comment section what story to unravel next.